Good afternoon, students. In today's lecture, we'll be discussing about absurd, absurdism, the term absurdism, and the theater of absurd. So, when we talk about absurd in common language, absurd is not at all logical or not at all sensible, that which is ridiculous. So, the concept of absurd, if we talk about the concept of absurd, it was first originated by Albert Camus, right? Albert Camus was the first who introduced this term, and it was introduced in 1913 until 1916. Now, Albert Camus was a French existentialist, philosopher, and novelist. Now, it was popularized by Persian theorist who was Ionesco in 1912. This was introduced in England in the 50s of Samuel Beckett. Again, it was introduced, this word absurd was introduced by Samuel Beckett in the year 1916. In the year 1906, in his famous play Waiting for Godot, it was written in 1955. So, when we talk about absurd in general, the concept of the absurd was originated by Albert Camus, and he was the French existentialist philosopher and novelist. But it was popularized by Persian Huguenot Ionesco in 1912. It was first introduced in England in the 50s by Samuel Beckett in 1906, whose play Waiting for Godot made theoretical history, and you will find the concept of absurd in this play also. Now, other British dramatists who were influenced by Ionesco were N.F. Simpson, James Sanders, and Harold Pinter. The absurd is defined as anything that militates against human happiness, reason, common sense, and justice. Now, Ionesco was the one to use this concept, and he had written many plays also. For example, Chairs. Chair was one of the work written by him, and by using this, he uses absurd objects. He uses absurd objects and convictions of life's absurdity. He uses objects and images which that did not carry any logic or sense, and through this only he tries to express his conviction of life's absurdity. For example, if you talk about his play Chair, which was written in 1951, he uses empty chairs to show man's empty existence. In the same way, in his work Rhinoceros, which was written in 1958, he introduces this monster to illustrate man's mania for conformity. And there were many more plays in which he shows what kind of absurdity were used during that period. So I hope this term absurd is clear to you people. Now, when we come to theater of absurd, it was coined by Martin Esslin, and it was derived from an essay by French philosopher Albert Camus, in his Myth of Sisyphus, which was written in 1942. Where he defines human situation as basically meaningless and absurd. In this, the Myth of Sisyphus, he defines human existence as meaningless and absurd. He says that we as a human being, we exist for nothing, and the life on this earth is nothing. So he questions on the existence of human being, that why do we exist, for what do we exist. Now, there are certain points to remember when you are going through this theater of absurd, and whatever I am delivering, I'll be sending you the materials to study, so that the things will be more clear to you. Now, the theater of absurd, the origin rooted in the avant-garde experiments in art of the 1920s and 1930s, point number 1. Point number 2, it is a reaction to the disappearance of the religious dimensions from contemporary life. So, point number two, if you talk about point number two, it is a reaction to the disappearance of religious dimension. Now, people living during that period, during this period, the period of Samuel Beckett and Harold Pinter, they believed that the religious dimension are disappearing, and the people who are living in this contemporary world, they don't have any logic, they are living without logic. So it was a reaction to the disappearance. It was a kind of revolt, a revolt for the disappearance of religious dimension. Now, when we talk about point 3, it is an attempt to restore the importance of myth and ritual to our age by making man aware of the ultimate realities of his condition. Now, these dramatists, they believed that the age in which we as a human being are living is an age which carries no meaning. We are living in this age without any logic, without any kind of goal. So this was an attempt to restore the importance of myth and ritual, which was forgotten, or which was being distorted by the modern man, by making man aware of ultimate realities of his condition. Now, they believed that people are not able to experience, or people are not able to realize the reality of the life, the condition of the life. That is why it was again an attempt to restore the importance of myth and rituals. Now, again, the fourth point is highly unusual innovative form. Now, the things that were going around were like unusual, very highly unusual, and they believed that this theater of absurd can bring some innovation or some kind of logic in people's life. Now, when we talk about distrust of language, now they did not believe in this simple language. They used a language which was believed to be highly different, which was believed to be different from the languages that people were using. So it was a distrust. They did not believe on the language that modern man was living. Now, the next point is no dramatic conflict. The most important thing is that the play that you are going to study, that is Waiting for Godot, you will not find any kind of conflict in that. The characters, they are not moving here and there. There is no movement in those characters. You will find that they are standing at a point, and without any logic, they are waiting for something. They are not able to think that what is going to happen next. I mean, they are not worried about their life. Theater of situation and lyrical theater. The next point is theater of situation and lyrical situation. Now, you will find lyrical theater in that, and theater according to the situation. So these are a few points you need to remember while you are studying the theater of absurd and absurdism. So if we talk about all these points, you will find that absurd and absurdism was really a kind of change, that could give the present age a logic, give a present age a logic, a meaning to live. That is why it is said that waiting for something is what is called waiting for nothing, and that nothing is something. That means nothing and something are two parallel things. If you are waiting for nothing, that means you are waiting for something. You want something from life, and that is the biggest question, that whatever you are trying to find out, then what is the logic behind that? And if you are not able to find out the logic behind that, then that thing is meaningless. So the main factor was the loss of, or the disappearance of myth, ritual, that they believed that yes, it was disappearing day by day, and it was the disappearance of religious dimension that made these writers write about absurdism and the concept of existentialism. I hope that you people have understood this concept, and apart from that, I have sent you study material on Google Classroom also, so you can go through that, and if you have any doubt, you can just post me on Google Classroom. Thank you.